I've been playing video games since I was 5 years old, back when my parents substituted a Game Boy Color and Pokemon Blue in place of a babysitter. As I grew up, there was so much to love about gaming. I got to play and experienced countless amazing titles, and I witnessed the industry as it grew and evolved after playing something like Oblivion, BioShock, or Halo 3. I would just kind of sit there and wonder, what's next? However, in the last 9 or so years, it feels like in many ways, the quality of video games, and especially AAA titles, has majorly declined. The industry is always creating something new, innovative, and epic. Gaming as a medium has evolved very quickly in the 35 or so years that it's been around, and while there's a lot of aspects to love, just consider this a more pessimistic take on the state of gaming. So, what is it that has caused the decline of gaming? No, it's not these old Flash cartoons, but they did inspire the name. It's the same thing that ruined so much of this beautiful world of ours: insatiable greed.
I activate Pot of Greed! This card allows me to
implement microtransactions into Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Just to clarify, these are my opinions based on the facts that I've researched and observed. If I get something wrong, please feel free to let me know, guys, okay? Which I'm sure you guys will. For every negative thing that's happened to video games, you could also argue that an equally positive benefit has occurred, and that's a fair point. Greed is the driving force of this decline, but it does get tricky because greed in this case takes on several forms. And no, it's not an overweight Italian man with a ridiculous mustache. It's something both subtle and straightforward. Now, let's not waste any more time on a pleasant intro, let's just jump straight into this. Perceiving the decline. Is it in our heads? It's challenging and overwhelming to tackle the core issues that plague a multi-billion-dollar industry with so many different companies, developers, publishers, programmers spread all over the world. Is it really possible to categorize and identify this decline? All we need to do is follow the money. So let me just list some things that you guys are probably already aware of, and I will elaborate on them down the line. 1. An increase in buggy, glitchy games. Big budget releases often have a botched launch and are forced to rely on updates to fix their issues. Number 2, an overabundance of remakes, remasters, and sequels. Number 3, the corporatization of gaming, the conduct of major companies, publishers, and developers. And of course, number 4, the obvious influx of RNG loot boxes being forced into every genre of game, and increasingly aggressive monetization schemes. It may be that our own minds play a factor in this as well. Possibly we see the game industry as being worse because we had it so good in the past. Is all the disappointment we feel simply caused by us growing older and more jaded? It's entirely possible that the negativity that we associate with modern gaming is outweighing the more positive innovations that have been made. Games look better, the story is more epic, characters are represented so realistically, sorry, can't talk right now. Animations are vastly improved. My point is, try not to become too overwhelmed with nostalgia for the glory days, and remember that your perception does play a huge part in this decline. Now that we have a solid base for this topic, let's dive deep into the decline of gaming. Complacency. Pleased, especially with oneself or one's merit, advantages, or situation, often without awareness of some potential danger or defect. Self-satisfied. Complacency is probably the biggest deterrent to innovation in quality game design. The perfect example is Valve. Once known for their unconventional methods of game design and their repertoire of critically acclaimed releases, so many instant classics that to this day are viewed as some of the greatest games of all time. But what about since then? Well, Valve has not made a new game since Portal 2, which was 10 years ago, guys. And the last time that they even launched a new IP was Left 4 Dead, and that was 13 years ago. But let's take a quick look at the games they've launched since then. CSGO, a remake of Counter-Strike Source, which was a remake of the original Counter-Strike. Dota 2, a remake of the Dota mod for Warcraft 3. Counter-Strike Nexon Zombies. Free-to-play zombie shooter? No thanks. Left 4 Dead Survivors, Japanese only. The Lab, a series of 8 VR minigames that was more or less just an experiment. Dota Underlords, a mobile version of Dota Auto Chess. Do I need to elaborate further? This is literally the same company that made Half-Life 2, and yet Valve is just content with developing these unremarkable titles? Why? You can really sum up the disappointment gamers have had with this company in the Artifact reveal. Everyone was so hyped to see what Valve was working on. It has been so many years since they came out with the new kick-ass game, and when they revealed it, everyone just lost all interest. A Dota 2 card game. Now, the question is, why did Valve stop making actual games? What happened to their ambition? Well, as of March 2015, Valve makes $18 million per month off of Dota 2 alone. Valve is also, by ratio, one of the most profitable companies with the fewest employees in America, earning roughly $300,000 per employee. They make 30% off of every sale on Steam. They're just rolling in the moolah right now, guys. The chimichangas, the gold bars. If you're making tons of money selling the same thing for 7 years straight and you're a businessman, then why would you stop? Seriously, why would you take the risk and time to develop and sell a new product when you can simply maintain your current products and watch the profits get dumped straight into your bank account? Oh hey, Bethesda. How's it going, buddy? Didn't see you guys over there. You guys still selling Skyrim? There's no question that Valve fans will eat up whatever new game they put out, provided it's the type of game people want. You'd buy Portal 3, you'd buy Left 4 Dead 3, and you'd most certainly buy Half-Life 3, if they actually fucking came out. Long awaited and pretty much dead, Half-Life 3 is a perfect example of complacency. Despite the critical acclaim and unrelenting hype for this title, you'd think that Half-Life 3 would be at the top of Valve's priority list, but it's not. Instead, we got a new VR game, and while it's cool that they finally made a new Half-Life, all I can think is, what about the games that people want? You see, Valve, and even some other companies, need to take lessons from Bono. You don't ever stop trying to be in the limelight. Keep pushing forward to infinity and beyond. Bethesda and Rockstar are another two clear-cut examples of how complacency has creeped into the video game industry, the undisputed masters of reselling the same product in as many forms possible. After Grand Theft Auto 5, Rockstar basically did nothing except update the game and port their old games to different platforms, until 5 years later, they released Red Dead Redemption 2. Now again, I'm not saying these are bad games, but if you look back in the 5 years between 2001 and 2006, they were putting out hot shit like GTA 3, Vice City, Midnight Club 2, Manhunt, Red Dead Revolver, The Warriors, and Bully. Rockstar used to experiment and try new things, developing several IPs at a time and building a library of games to their name. But now, they've just gotten complacent. Bethesda, meanwhile, had a 5-year wait between Oblivion and Skyrim. That felt like forever, but oh my god, was it worth it. Skyrim was amazing. It flew off the shelves like crazy. All my friends are playing it, and now it's been 10 years since Skyrim, and we basically have no news, gameplay, or anything involving an Elder Scrolls 6. After New Vegas, it took Bethesda another 5 years to come out with Fallout 4. A product that was very polarizing between the Fallout fanbase. Do you see this decline? And this complacency? The lack of desire to innovate and create new things has led to some of our favorite game companies releasing new games far more infrequently, and when they do, it's either something you don't care about or it's just another sequel. Despite nearly every single game company falling prey to complacency, almost none of this applies to Nintendo, who have stuck to their roots and have continued to evolve and release new games that blow us away. Nintendo is still doing things the old-fashioned way and making a shit ton of money, while all these other companies are just, doing things the easy way, because if it's broken but makes a shitload of money, then why fix it? Abundance of remakes and remasters. It's a fact that gaming has followed certain trends throughout the years. You had arcades, where you paid quarters for entertainment. In the NES days, it was all about side-scrolling platforms. The SNES and Sega Genesis were all about graphics. Eventually, we had online gaming, rhythm games, battle royale, So many trends have come and gone. Some have stayed, but occasionally a certain style of game is perceived as no longer profitable or appealing to the mainstream. 3D platformers, for instance, have long fallen out of favor outside of Mario. In this case, instead of developing a brand new game in a genre that's considered dead, companies will choose to remaster or remake their old ones, and would you look at that, they become hella popular. Who would have thought? Spyro Ignited and Insane Trilogy was incredible remakes, and since those were so successful, don't you think people would be even more happy to see a brand new game starring the Purple Dragon or lovable Crash Bandicoot? There's been no such thing though, aside from a remake of Crash Racing and obviously Crash 4, which is really good. You can do some incredible things with the remake. Sometimes it turns an outdated game into something completely new, effectively remaking it to be as good as you thought it was back then. Remakes are a great way for new gamers to experience the magic of the past without the daunting task of playing something that looks like this. A remaster is capable of bringing older games up to speed with several quality of life changes and making it the definitive way to experience an old title. It can be pretty awesome to play a game that they ported to a newer console, so you don't have to buy an old expensive copy of it like Symphony of the Night and other Castlevania games being ported to Xbox. That shit's cool, okay? Not gonna lie. The problem arises when companies become more content to resell you their old games than they are to make new ones. It's become a meme how many different versions of Skyrim Bethesda has churned out. Legendary Edition, Skyrim Special Edition Remastered, Skyrim on the Switch, Skyrim now with mods, Skyrim for VR. In April 2013, Bethesda announced via their vlog that they were moving on from Skyrim and preparing to work on other projects. Yeah, that's a fucking laugh. Skyrim Pinball Edition. What the fuck, guys? At some moments, some remasters just try to bank off of your nostalgia and try to parade their old games as something new by slapping an HD at the end of the title. All I'm saying is, there weren't a whole lot of remakes or remasters back on the N64, PlayStation, Xbox, PS2, or GameCube, and that's because they were focused on creating new games. In fact, I can only think of one remaster from those consoles, Conquer Live, and holy shit, that game still looks so freaking sexy, even to this day. Nowadays, some remasters are just a shameless cash grab where you can see a side-by-side comparison and notice no difference. But hey, at least they added some extra dirt on the glass for a BioShock Remastered. Take my $40. Remember the original port of Dark Souls on Steam? It was so lazy and busted that they didn't even swap out the button prompts from the Xbox 360 version. I mean, holy shit! And then From Software comes out with Dark Souls Remastered, an actual real port of the game, and they charged people $40 to play Dark Souls with a revitalized PvP community. Okay? And even Dark Souls Remastered didn't bother to fix several game-breaking glitches, highlighted in this wonderful Infernal video. Companies will also take it a step further. EA turned Dungeon Keeper into a blatant pay-to-win dumpster fire mobile game. Activision not only released Modern Warfare Remastered, bundled with Infinite Warfare, but later added loot boxes and paid weapons into a game that did not have those things back in 2007. Some games like Sleeping Dogs and The Last of Us will come out with a remaster only 1 to 2 years after it released. You expect me to believe that technology has advanced so far in that time span that a 1-year-old game is now considered out of date? Now, it's nice to improve a game's stability, frame rate, and resolution, but is all that really worth buying the exact same product again? My point is that a lot of game companies are not willing to take risks anymore. It's disheartening to remember a time when the original Xbox was a haven of original, awesome, exclusive titles, and now the new Xbox doesn't even seem to be competing. This trend of lazy remasters and remakes brings me to my next point. Chasing trends, early access, etc. In an effort to capitalize on whatever is currently popular, plenty of game studios will just shamelessly rip off of others or rush out some basic ass shell of a game. Remember Lawbreakers? Man, didn't do so hot trying to copy Overwatch, did it? How about Boski Productions just copies Fortnite and PUBG and launched a shitty battle royale? That should definitely bring in the money. Radical Heights. good God, oh wow, this Battle Royale craze has really taken off. Let's release a brand new game that's completely fucked, abandon our old one, and alienate our fanbase. The Culling 2 proved just how desperate some devs really are. Of course, it would take too much time and effort to fix PUBG before porting it to the Xbox, so just, oh my god, let's burn it. Burn it all. Somehow made it worse. It's kind of shocking how a company that made all the money in King Tut's castle didn't use any of it to improve the game. Instead, they just wanted more. And then Titanfall made advanced movement popular. Well shit, of course Call of Duty and Halo now have to adapt that into their games, even if the devs don't understand what makes the movement good, even if it compromises the design style and identity of their franchises, just copy it, fuck it. I don't care if it works or if it's unintuitive, janky, and sucks ass, just copy it. Do what they're doing. A lot of these game series used to kind of go on their own way, and I miss that. Okay? The term early access has been hijacked by companies who are too lazy to call their games complete or admit that they're never going to finish them. It used to mean that you had early access to the game, and often it was like an indie title led by a small team that you understood did not have the big budget that some of these other games have, and they needed additional funding. But now, all it means is that the game's going to be a buggy piece of shit mess at launch, and you can't be mad at them because, hey guys, it's just an early access. Then you have all of these super fucking crap, shitty ass zombie survival games. My buddy brought over 7 Ways to Die one time, and after playing it for only 5 minutes, I was like, bro, you got fucking scammed. You buy this shit from Jose in the back alley behind a strip club? Like, what the fuck is this? Once esports started to take off, a lot of developers started tailoring their games to be competitive. Everybody wanted their product to break the esports territory, and that can really mess with the product's vision. When all you're worried about is chasing the most popular trends and the cash flow, you get all of these half-assed games releasing, and suddenly the desire to create something new is replaced with the desire to copy others. Games as a service. Updates, online only, broken launches, etc. The ability to patch a game after its release was one of the biggest revolutions in modern game development, allowing teams to continue their work before going gold. Bug fixes, balance updates, and more were now possible. Even when a game comes out and you buy it on launch, it has an update, because the developers are still working on it after they started shipping copies. Nowadays, you can fix, tweak, and save your ass as a developer with this luxury of post-launch support. Overwatch is a prime example of when it's utilized well. It needed several updates to become what it is today. Without them, most people probably will have gotten bored of the game. The idea of constantly adding new content and features to engage players and keep them coming back is honestly good for both the gamers and the companies. However, it's when the games as a service philosophy starts enveloping every stage of design, when devs rely too much on fixing the game and adding to it after launch, that we see gaming decline. Halo 5 Guardians straight out the gate had like a 7-month plan of content. Why didn't you guys work that into the 3 years of development you had? You compare Spec Ops and Modern Warfare 2 and 3, and there's no mistake that everybody prefers those versions to the 2019 version, where it now takes Infinity Ward 1 month to get 2 missions out. 11 years ago, they launched a game with 23 of them. The difference is crystal clear on how games are developed now. You look at something like Coder 2, Halo 2, Smash Bros. Melee. These games all had hellish development cycles that devoured the lives of the people working on them. These are heroes who sacrificed their time with their families just to complete the game when it was supposed to be done so that we, the consumers, can get the best product possible. Despite the many bugs, glitches, and general lack of polish in these 3 highly anticipated sequels, they turned out phenomenal because neither Obsidian, Bungie, nor Nintendo could depend on simply fixing the game after the fact. Not having that luxury put the pressure on. Now, with the luxury of post-launch support, compare the content from Halo 2 to Halo 5 at launch. Halo 5 had 4 game modes, the lowest in the entire series, and it took an entire year of updates just to make Halo 5 a somewhat complete package. What Halo 2 accomplished in its 3 years of development, back in 2004, Halo 5 needed an extra year after it was already out in 2015. This isn't just exclusive to Halo, it happens to almost every other game series, where the gears stop turning and something as simple as launching a game in a playable state becomes an urban legend, a myth. Bad Company 2 launched perfectly and works fine. But then DICE drops Battlefield 3, 4, and Battlefront 2, all of which had nightmarish issues at launch and simply did not work. It gets so ridiculous to the point where you wonder if these games that they put out are actually illegal because the product does not work as advertised. Then you get something like Call of Duty World War II, where even the menus didn't work. You look at how Mass Effect 1, which came out in 2007, was pretty damn good. But then Mass Effect Andromeda, 10 years later, somehow looks worse, and it was a glitch-ridden disaster. Diablo 1 and 2, absolute masterpieces. Diablo 3 is coming out, and people have been waiting over a decade to experience this game. It releases an error 37, and you can't play the game until Blizzard figures their shit out. Then you had Dead Island, where the developers completely fucked up and released the wrong version of the game. How the fuck does that even happen? SimCity was made to always be online, except you couldn't connect to EA's shitty ass servers. Batman Arkham Knight was knowingly pushed out onto PC, despite the publishers knowing it was a terrible port with horrific frame rate issues. I'm not saying that every game from the glory days launched in a perfect state, because they didn't, but these unplayable disasters happened far less frequently, and at the same time, I was way more forgiving of them back then. And then we arrive at the Master Chief Collection, which was a testament to just how broken you could release a game and somehow not be investigated by the Better Business Bureau. This atrocity was so unplayable, I'm surprised that there was no class action lawsuit filed. The new cutscenes were jaw-dropping, but it's hardly any consolation when nothing worked. Menus were fucked, game glitches everywhere, it was impossible to find games, the ranking system constantly resetting. 343, can't even talk right now, needed like 3 or 4 years to make the MCC collection a consistently playable game. So this is a subjective point, but take a look at these MMOs. World of Warcraft changed the gaming landscape as we knew back then. It really gave rise to the games as a service philosophy with monthly subscriptions, new expansions, and it was a nice source of cash flow. And for players that enjoyed the game, it was the greatest thing ever. World of Warcraft has been consistently supported for like the past 15 years, and that's great. But here's an important point hardly ever mentioned. Warcraft as a series has been an MMORPG longer than it has been a real-time strategy one. Despite 3 games with multiple expansions, the reason why Warcraft 4 does not exist is because World of Warcraft does. Similarly, the reason why Knights of the Old Republic 3 does not exist is because the Old Republic does. Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't exist yet because they've been working on the Elder Scrolls Online. For better or worse, these incredible series of games have converted to the games as a service philosophy. They have turned their back on their roots. EA is infamous for shutting down several game studios, including Visceral, who are working on a single-player Star Wars game, because single-player games can't really be made into a live service. EA saw this venture as not as profitable, and they shut it the fuck down. Fuck EA. Say it with me. It's actually surprising when something like The Jedi Fallen Order comes out with no caveats and is a genuinely great game. But in the past 6 or so years that EA has had the rights to Star Wars, this is the first single-player game that they have put out. Flashback to the early 2000s. Oh baby. Jedi Academy Republic Commando, KOTOR 1 and 2, the Episode 3 game, Lego Star Wars Bounty Hunter, Obi-Wan, Force Unleashed, Battlefront 1 and 2, Empire at War. Star Wars games were off the fucking hook. But EA is now just complacent. We live in a time where the updates a game goes through are more impactful than the actual release itself. And it's the ship it now, fix it later mentality that's allowing these companies to churn out so many titles that suck straight ass when they come out. A video game should never be a gamble, or the consumer doesn't know if it's going to function or not. Corporization, anti-consumer. Probably the worst thing about the decline of gaming is the corporization of it all. The game industry is becoming more and more controlled by some board of directors who don't see this hobby as you or I do. They aren't thinking about how can we make the best games possible? How can we make our fans happy? They're thinking only of how can we make the most money with the least amount of effort. There are investors to please, deadlines to meet. Game development used to be just a bunch of nerds pooling their talents and creativity to create something incredible. incredible, something that they would want to play themselves. But corporatization has been sucking the life and soul out of these games and gaming, and this is illustrated by the complete lack of originality in the cover art of games. It would be foolish to condemn all pre-order bonuses and microtransactions / DLC because only a Sith deals in absolutes. But you're the consumer. What do you want? What do you care about? Cool, meaningful, cosmetic unlockables that showcase your accomplishments? Okay, but what's the ideal way for the players to unlock them? Ask yourself this question first. Is this good for the player? Is it good for the players to unlock gameplay altering abilities or cosmetic items and monetized, randomized loot boxes? Is that a form of progression and unlocks that is beneficial to the player? Of course not. So why do companies include it? Because the well-being of the consumer and the quality of the experience is now secondary to what's most profitable. Back during the 360, PS3, and Wii generation, players noticed that there was a lot more downloadable content than the previous generations. In fact, the GameCube didn't even connect to the internet at all. But now it seems like loot boxes are far more numerous. That's because companies realized DLC was only a one-time purchase, and that there was a way to turn players into payers consistently. Doing that would yield higher results. And then that's why we get all of these season passes, where companies want you to put up $50 based on a promise. As video games become more and more expensive to make, the price of a new release has stayed the same for decades. And while any business, big or small, needs to make a profit, the length some companies go to monetize their games is fucking absurd. Sometimes being so greedy to the point where they will compromise the design of their game. 343 and Creative Assembly went so far in this direction in crafting a mode specifically to integrate loot boxes into fucking Halo Wars 2 and create a pay-to-win model. Madden and FIFA Ultimate Teams. Wow, those are so fucking cool. Not. Ruined by pay-to-win loot boxes. Battlefield 1 and 4. Offering literal shortcuts throughout the progression system. Think about that for a second. The designers created the system of XP, how it's earned, how much it takes to unlock things, and then decided to monetize a way for players to skip it entirely. Bungie literally cutting and reselling parts of Destiny 1 and 2 to make players pay for stupid ass shaders, making them consumables so players will have to buy them again. This was not a decision made for the benefit of the fucking player, okay? Forza 5 is offering just as many payable cars as ones that you can earn in the game. The list of DLC for The Sims alone, just alone, is fucking staggering. Train Simulator 2015 offers over $4,000 worth of DLC, purchasable weapons in Black Ops 4, giving people an advantage. Microsoft charging you to remove ads in Solitaire. Fucking microtransactions in Solitaire. Okay, what the fuck? Then for some games, it can get so bad that functional microtransactions have become more important than a functional game. I couldn't get into matches in Call of Duty World War II when it came out, but you bet your ass I could buy some damn loot boxes. And then Fallout 76. Wow, easily one of the most embarrassing, blatant, empty cash grabs the industry has ever seen. Do you as a player want to have sections of the video game that you just bought sealed into randomized crates that are paid for with real money? Hell no! There's always a better alternative. Titanfall 2 is a shining example. It might not make the most money, but there's no bullshit involved. What you see is what you get, and the game isn't any worse or better off because of it. Companies have tried seemingly every slimy, underhanded tactic to get you to pay just a bit more. Metal Gear Survive had the audacity to charge people $10 for an extra save slot. In Modern Warfare 2, you had to grind for those extra custom class slots, but in recent games, you can just buy them. Like, is that where we're at now? Seriously. Valve and Bluehole opened up schemes to live selling and trading with other players, which leads to gambling websites and the notorious shitlords like Team Martin and Pro Syndicate trying to make money off this. Infamous CSGO, lotto scandals. The increasingly aggressive monetization of video games has gotten so out of hand that it has attracted the attention of several world governments. I mean, if you look at those leaked patents by Activision, it tells you everything. The intent is right there. Adhering to these patents, they want to make you as addicted as possible to spending money. They want to control you. That's why Bungie decided to throttle how much XP you got. I bet that they wouldn't have done that if they weren't trying to sell me bright engrams. The decline in gaming has manifested in so many different ways. It honestly hurts to talk about the game industry that I knew and loved, as it's just gotten complacent with lazy titles, trend-chasing garbage, half-assed remasters, corporatization over monetization, and a lack of drive to create something new. Games as a service and early access become crutches for developers to lean on, and when fans get upset at how dysfunctional and empty their latest releases are, or wonder why game-breaking issues continue to exist, they use early access or "we're working on it" as a shield. Now don't get me wrong, the good stuff is still out there, but you do have to find it among all the noise. With all this shit that's changed for the worse in gaming, it's starting to feel like a soulless assembly line production, and the way companies treat their consumers is honestly making me lose faith in the industry. And that, my fellow gamers, is how gaming has declined.